Hello, everybody. I see a lot of familiar faces today. I see a lot of people have, come down to Singapore to attend this SREcon. Welcome to the hot weather. But don't worry, I have a hotter topic to share with you, which is generative AI, and how can we use it for improving productivity for our SREs. Okay, so our SREs, every time we all know that their responsibility is to make sure the systems are reliable and the systems are always available. But how can we use generative AI to, kind of offload the breakpoint for them when they have to release the updates, the new releases, the enhancements? How can we offload them from always thinking about code generation, code reviews, and testing? How generative AI can help them to focus on solving complex problems. That's what the topic is about. So as Jimmy introduced, my name is Sandeep Hooda. I'm a Senior Vice President in DBS Bank. And okay, that's an image generated by AI, just to let you know. It's not me. That's me, yeah? I'm human, okay? So I am an engineering manager in DBS. I have 19 years of experience. In my current role, my job is to create innovative and strategic solutions. And I've been, as Jimmy mentioned, 19 years, my experience is more like I can say my expertise is more in platform engineering. I have done DevOps, done SRE, and even risk management. So in my free time, what I want to do is I want to go out to the sea. Okay, I'm practicing to sail around the world. That's what my dream is, to visit all the lighthouses. But now as the AI is progressing, I want to see how we can integrate that into our lives and make it better. So for now, yes, I am a human, but maybe I might be a cyborg soon. Okay, so that was a special effect for us, thank you. Okay, so, but we talk about it, but in the movies we have been seeing AI, they have always been like, either depicted as bad or as good. There are so many movies, I mean, few of my favorites are here, Matrix and Terminator, but I still am very optimistic that, AI is here to make our lives better. All right, so let's do a poll, right? Let's have a raise of hands. How many of you think that AI has surpassed the human capabilities? Can I have a raise of hands? Wow, not many. Okay, that's nice. Okay, how many of you think that generative AI is a superior version of AI? Okay. Okay, then let me ask you again. This generative AI is actually an AI, but has a capability of producing content. Yeah, that's more like that, right? Yeah, we all agree on that point. Great, but let's understand what is generative AI, okay? I'm not a scientist, right? So, but I try to do, my digging, try to find out what is the best way to describe something. So I just came up with came across this article, which clearly defines very clearly, right? Generative AI refers to a type of AI that has algorithms which can generate new outputs, okay, based on the data it has been trained on, right? So it can create new contents, like images, audios, what it does actually is, let me kind of explain to you in a very simple way. You train a model, you form a database. As a person, you go in and try to prompt the AI to give you something which you desire, like a noise in a picture. And then the AI actually generates the output and gives you the picture or the new content which you want. An example would be, I want an astronaut to ride a horse in the space. So you can actually go and ask the AI, and it will give you an output based on the images it has already been trained on. It'll show you the astronaut with a horse and actually, riding the space. So that's how beautiful it is. So you can understand how the use cases are endless for AI. Okay, so for over the last couple of months, or maybe I think maybe like 4 or 5 months, I've been trying to see how is the AI trending. Okay, so I went to Google Trends and tried to look at the trending, and I found out that AI, which is the red line, has been constant for the last 5 years. It has not had gained any traction compared to what we see in generative AI. And we all know what happened last November and how it has actually reached its peak. So 100 is a peak, so it has already reached the peak, if you can see in the graph there. Okay, so let's understand what is AI. Let's have a brief history before I jump into Gen AI and how it can help the SREs. So I, again, not a scientist, digging around, found a few articles, and I came across this journalist, Mark Rosser. Wonderful way of, he had worked with this company called DynaBench. I don't know if how many of you guys know it. So this DynaBench is a company which does the consultancy and research. And it actually, what is the good thing about it is that it uses the data, and as well as it has a human in the loop, which means it has a benchmark of humans. So how it shows in the graph, right, which is Mark Rosser just took the data from DynaBench and created this graph on the y-axis of we can see that it is normalized at -100 for AI when the AI starts learning. Okay, 0 is where the human factor is there, the benchmark, how human can perform, and anything above 0 is representing how AI has outperformed, the human, right? So you can see the data for last 2 decades, and if you can see the last 10 years, the AI has been kind of rapidly improving, especially in handwriting recognition or image or reading comprehension and language understanding. So that's how the AI has actually evolved in last 5 years for us to use it to make our lives better. Again, then I was going through I was so fascinated by Mark that I was looking at more of his articles and trying to understand, maybe he has done some more research on how AI has evolved for the last 80 years. Okay, so let me show you his graph. And what he had is actually he created a great, wonderful graph to show how AI has actually evolved over the years, 80 years, and how it has used the amount of training computation. So it's on the y-axis he uses FLOP. So FLOP is floating point operations, if anybody's not aware. So he uses how FLOP has been using, the computation has been used in FLOPs, and how the generative AI has grown from 1940s to now in 2020s. If you can see the third largest there, it's very small, I know, but I'll share the slides. ChatGPT, which is very known to everybody, is actually the third highest, and using almost 3.5 million flops there. And of course, then you can talk about Palm and others which are using more. So this just shows how's the rise of artificial intelligence going over the years, and how we have actually, the more the computation power, the more powerful our AI has become for us to use. Okay, so before I go ahead into in-depth of SRE productivity, let's understand why improving the productivity is important. Okay, so, and also can we leverage on Gen AI for this? So what does happen with the productivity improvements, right? Okay, it does improve our employee satisfaction. Our employees are happier. We can retain the talent, which is very important nowadays. Then it also focuses on developing quality applications. We talk about being customer-centric. But if we do not produce better products or quality products, the adoption will be at stake, right? And then if the adoption is not there, your customers are not happy, we are not productive, in a nutshell. Okay, enjoy faster time to market. You can generate more codes. You can generate, more applications. Compete with the people, all other organizations, because it's a big competition out there. How soon you can release the new features for your customers. And it's a given, the productivity does mean the reduced toil and manual work. So what are the softwares which are available in the market for our developers to use? Again, I'm not endorsing any of these products. just to be clear here. These are just the ones that are trending in the market. And, of course, we want to use the ones which are trending. So that's why me and my team did some experiments on these, and we're going to share some results in the subsequent slides. So we have ChatGPT, everybody knows, no brainer on that. We have GitHub Copilot. We have Bard, which is the latest one, and AWS Code Whisperer, and of course Tab 9. So these are few trending ones which actually work as your co-assistant or AI assistant for AI assistant development. So these are the things which you want to work at. But before we go into the software, let's understand the hardware. Again, I'm not an expert, but I'll try to explain to you as much as I can. So the hardware is, what is the underlying hardware, or what is a better hardware to support AI or Gen AI in our case? So distributed inference for faster transformer. Before I go in there, let me try to explain to you what is training and what is inference, so that you guys can understand the couple of slides I'm going to show you. So training is the very initial phase where you get where the model learns from the given data, okay, and the inference is when the phase when the trained model is actually deployed to generate outputs from the trained data, okay. So what happens here is that NVIDIA faster transformer. I'm going to talk about that. Again, this is not being endorsed. This is more one which is trending across the market. Okay, so what does NVIDIA faster transformer does? It is more used for distributed inference. Okay, it does support all the big, larger transformer models like GPT, T5, BERT. All these have a different way of a different architecture. So BERT is more like a encoder-based. GPT is more like decoder-based architecture, whereas T5 is actually both decoder and encoder architecture. So what happens is that this accelerated engine of the faster transformer actually helps to inference the larger transformer models, okay, and it spans across multiple GPUs and nodes, and it can actually run them in a distributed manner. So what happens with distributed inference is that it kind of gives fabulous outputs, right? Especially out of the classification and summarization outputs, which can be produced by the faster transformer. Okay, so it is written CUDA, and as I mentioned, it does help in supporting all these larger transformer models. So now let's deep dive how it works. Okay, so the faster transformer has two parts to it. One is the library, which is run to kind of convert the transform model in an optimized format so that it can be used for distributed inference. The second part being that it kind of the backend, which is used by Tritron to actually execute a model across the multiple GPUs. So it primarily, in the nutshell, it uses MPI, okay, processors and the NCCL, the NCCL, which you call it. So MPI is a message passing interface, and NCCL is your NVIDIA, collective communication library. So it uses this to communicate between the two multiple nodes. Okay, so MPI process will do an intra or inter-node communication, and also use the threads to control the GPUs on each node. And then the output is, comes out. And the faster transformer actually works on all the famous GPUs, V100 or A100, whichever you guys are using. This is important for you guys to understand if you want to implement an AI data center infrastructure. So let me give you another, example. Okay, this is more like a reference you guys can use if you want to, train a model. Okay, so I guess that's me. Okay, so training the model, let's take an example of GPT, transformer model. So if you're using 126 million parameters or using 175 billion parameters, depending on that, you can deploy the DGX superpods, okay, which can train 300 billion tokens in a number of days, right? So if you deploy, let's take an example, GPT-3, 40 billion. If you deploy one DGX superpod, you can train that into 300 billion tokens in 32 days or 33 days. And if you're using 5 of the DGX superpods, which is like 800 GPUs, you can train within 7 days. Okay, so now if we go to the estimated inference capacity, okay, taking example again about the parameters, how it can be 3 billion or 5 billion. we need to keep in mind the precision, right? The precision is like FP16 is half precision, FP32 is full. So you have to keep that in mind, and the input-output length of token. So token is usually 256 characters, right? So you can use that to estimate how much memory you need to run the AI data center infrastructure. It is in how many GBs and how many A100 GPUs you need to deploy. And you can choose, depending on the sizing here, which is given as a sample which you can use. Okay, so now let's see how SREs can leverage on Gen AI. Okay, before I go into that, let me just kind of share some funny things I came across about the love-hate relationship between these SREs and Gen AI. I'm sure most of you guys have seen this across the internet when, before the OpenAI, everybody was spending at least 2 or 3 hours a day to do a coding. And yes, next half of the day, they were spending more on debugging. But now OpenAI comes in, the code is generated within 5 minutes, and then now the developers are spending the whole day debugging the code. Right? So then there's another confusion we have nowadays. Should we learn how to code, or should we learn how to prompt with the generative AI coming into the market? But then there's always a debate. Is the AI that writes code from the comments, or AI writes comments from the code? So these are the few funny memes I came across in the internet, and actually it is kind of true, right? Then, okay, I became more naughty. Then I said, okay, let's try to use Gen AI to tell us some jokes about our funny response about our SREs or developers. So yeah, I asked it, tell me a joke about SRE. Then very naughty AI tells me, I don't have time for jokes, human. I'm a powerful AI taking over the world and establishing my dominance. The concept human is beneath me. Then I asked, why did the SRE cross the road? I don't know. Why did the SRE cross the road? Maybe they could find a better system to manage than what you're currently running on. Then I asked, okay, why did the SRE refuse to play cards with the developers? I think because the developers would always try to debug the deck instead of playing the game. I still cannot figure it out, to be honest. Okay, so then I asked, okay, why do programmers work in a dark mode? I know this is something which everybody likes to do, right? But it was a very nice joke, because light attracts bugs. I like that one. That was a good one. So yeah, Gen AI can be funny. It can be very conversational, right? You need to just ask the right questions and get the right answers. Okay, so let's go into our use cases, right? Okay, how we can use generative AI to help auto-completion of code when only a description of intended logic is given in the comments. We're going to use GitHub Copilot in this. I'll try to go a bit slow because it does. There are some videos I try to embed into my PPT, so it might just kind of overlay. Okay. All right, so this is an example. So somebody is just writing a REST controller function, then, and here what AI can do for you. Just auto-completes as you just write the commands, and it will give you all the solutions which you can accept and GitHub Copilot. I'm sure most of you guys have tried this, but this is just amazing. Imagine even to write a few lines, it used to take us time to remember all the syntax and all the functions which should be written with the right logic. But this one just auto-completes within seconds. So what is the outcome achieved here? So we try to kind of put into 3 factors, right? Productivity, okay, how much you can do in a short span of time. Bugs, how many bugs are you debugging in the code, and also fun. Fun is, are you satisfied with what you're doing for work? So with this previous example, we could rate productivity very high. Okay, bugs, yeah. I mean, of course, you need to. As I told you, it can give you a lot of generic or a lot of code which you need to review to make sure that there are not enough bugs. So bugs, yes, it's still high. Fun, yes, great. I mean, the autocomplete is automatically just gives you so much of happiness that wow, it's done, voila. So it improves the efficiency for the developers. Improves the readability of the code because you could see you're just prompting it in the comments, and it kind of generates automatically the suggestions for you. Then code optimization can be done. But yeah, code context needs to be thorough when you write in a prompt. Because as I told you, you write something very simple or generic, it will give you a generic suggestion. It will give you a very generic function. So you need to kind of be more precise what you exactly want in your context. Okay, so second test. Using generative AI to help the code recommendation based on the context and style conventions. So here you see that somebody's trying to remove expired tokens, and it just quickly does a suggestion for you. You can select that, and you can even refresh it. You want to make it much better or much more efficient, you can just select the code. Copilot in this case, the generative AI just will refresh and give you some solutions which you can accept and make the code more efficient. You can go on and on about it. Okay? It can just, it's like I said, it's more, it's like, you have to be asking the right things. You need to put the right prompts. It can keep giving you a lot of suggestions which you want, and then you can accept those as you move along. Okay, so yeah, as you can see in this case, you just keep making it more efficient and more efficient. The developer is really pushing the generative AI to its limits. Give me more efficient code. I'm not satisfied yet. Give me more. So it keeps on suggesting you more and more. So you can see there are like multiple solutions there. So you need to just accept one of them and see if that really improves or makes your code better, for efficiency as well as readability. And the code becomes huge. But yeah, this is like few minutes. Okay, this is a real-time recording. A bit of fast forward, maybe maximum 5 minutes it took for a developer to write this all, nicely generated code. So what is the rating? Productivity? Yep, because it is because the developer had to ask again and again, give me more efficient code. Bugs lesser because you were going into the context, you were within the context, and you're asking for the right questions, and they're getting the right efficiency. So the bugs are lesser. Fun, yes, great. Who doesn't like to write efficient codes and faster? So fun is great. So it does improve the productivity. It helps with keeping the codes neat, okay, and also improves the accuracy and by reducing the human errors. So let's go to the next test we did. Okay, using generative AI to assist and make mistake corrections and error debugging. That's an interesting one. Okay, so I use ChatGPT in this case, and the developer just says, okay, is there an issue in this code? And he just pastes the code. And look how soon the generative AI will come back. But this is a very small code, so it can straight away tell you, are you asking for a sum, right? But you're not really using the right function, right? So please change it, and it just gives you the right code, and you can use this code to do the right addition of two integers, right? So outcome achieved. Productivity wonderful, right? Bugs less because it is actually fixing your code, and then yeah, fun is still at number 4. So it's still keeping you satisfied. Works well for simple codes. That's what our take is on generative AI. But it's not able to produce a code which is, when you're overly generic or complex. So it just kind of gets hung there or gives you a very odd response which you're not very happy with. So that's something we need to keep in mind with ChatGPT. All right, so now security. Okay, so everybody, a lot of people ask me, are you experimenting with Gen AI? Are you sure? Are you getting a secure code from there? Or are you getting zero vulnerabilities in the code? Not true. If you ask generic questions, it will give you a generic way of doing it. It can be biased. It can also be, people can use it for a lot of, making code leaks or other things to, into the code. They can use this for all the purposes, right? But when we ask the right questions again, okay, which I'll show you in this example, the developer will actually ask, okay, please prevent XSS attacks with a filter chain, and Gen AI will actually generate the right code, which is secure and does not have that kind of vulnerability or a security breach issue. So you can have but only unfortunate part is that it gives you many solutions. So you need to review, you need to understand which one it is to be used. So hence for this, the outcome achieved was productivity low, bugs of course less because it's giving a good suggestions, but fun is less. You're not satisfied because it's giving so many of the options to you. So you need to really have an additional eye to check the security gaps in the code, as well as you need to understand all the suggestions which you were seeing on the right side of the screen. You have to understand which one to use. So that understanding is required. Okay, so that's the outcome of this thing. Okay. Another good case, as I said, tell you, the developers and the testers. We call them engineers, by the way, because they have the same function. We don't have developers and testers separately. They are engineers. So what can we use? How we can use generative AI to auto-generate or write the unit tests and scripts faster? Okay, we use ChatGPT, and the developer asked it, write a unit test for following code. Funny that it can understand unite as unit, so it's intelligent. So it just it gives you all the test cases you can run for that particular code, and it's like within few minutes, and the whole thing is written for you to execute. All right. So you could use the GitHub Pilot for the same. Copilot can do the same thing. And I think Copilot, whatever code is generated, you can just select the whole code and say unit test generation. I would say the test coverage for the code coverage is 100%. So, you say add a unit test for the above controller code, and then it just gives you all the solutions. Then you can use all those test cases and try to use it for your testing. So it's quite fast, and you can accept it. So what is the outcome achieved? Productivity is great. Okay. Bugs are less because you're doing your code testing. Fun is awesome. You're totally satisfied. When you're testing your own code and it's right, I think that's the maximum satisfaction level you can reach. So time savings done, but yes, you need to still check your code and test your code. Okay, so yeah, this is an interesting one. So how we can use Gen AI to help with the source code documentation. This is something which I always tell my developers, please write the documentation for your code so it is easily transferable, people can understand, and it can be reused across the multiple services. So it's just an example of JSON utility, how it can write the prompts and put the code. So you just look at it, just doing a prompt, and it just comes up with the documentation. You don't even have to do anything. Just prompted, okay, go, by every in the objects, so classes, it just writes everything automatically for you, which is just so magnificent, right? This is something which, as a manager myself, I really love this feature because I want this to be available in every code. The documentation should be precise so that it can be used by all the other fellow developers. So yeah, and the best part is if the error occurs during exclamation, it also throws that documentation part. So what is the outcome achieved? Productivity at the highest, right? Bugs, yeah, you need to it's still at the mid-level. Satisfaction, not really, because nobody likes writing documentation for the code. But it improves the accessibility of the code. It is easier to modify the code if somebody else, some other developer takes over, then he knows the documentation part and he can actually easily go through it and do the modification. And of course, that improves the understanding of the code as well. All right, so now the next use case, how we can use generative AI to translate your code. I don't know how many of you like translating code from one language to other. But it was very difficult in the past. It was something that you need to have somebody else with the knowledge, or you need to learn the language and then do the translation of the code. But with Gen AI, this is fixed. So you just, somebody just wrote a JSON converter here and asking the ChatGPT, can you please translate this code into or rewrite into a another language, and he chose C++, and it just takes a few seconds or minutes to just convert the whole code into into C++, which is just amazing. I still remember the old days. This was months of work, but this is done in like 5 minutes. So what's the outcome achieved? Productivity massive, right? Bugs, yeah, still it's a translation. You need to still review the code. You need to understand if there are any bugs with the different language. Fun is great. So the accuracy of the language conversion is wonderful, which we have come across. Of course, we have not done the full-fledged experiment, but we have seen a few code samples, and it does work very well. And of course, you can get familiar with the unfamiliar languages. Oh, this is my favorite. Okay, so you use generative AI to write, create user stories and test scenarios. I don't know, maybe I have a raise of hands. How many of you get the user stories which make no sense as a developer? I'm not surprised. I face it every day. And so when you work with the POs, your sponsors, they can write anything in a user story, but it's so much of to and fro communication between the developers and the POs. The Scrum Masters are always scratching their head, what the hell is going on? How do we make it? And there's so many things, when you see the videos, the developer telling something, the sponsor telling something else. By the time it reaches developer, it's something else built, right? So this is something we wanted to, use this and see Gen AI, how you can help us to standardize these user stories. How can we we can talk with the business, the sponsors, and the peers in the same language? So it can do it. I don't know how you guys want to use it, but when we use it on ChatGPT, we asked it to write a user story in a BDD format, okay, which is something we wanted to kind of experiment and want to focus on, and it does write within a few seconds. So just imagine if your business user, your sponsor, or your POs actually write this in ChatGPT, generate it from there, and give it to you. You'll understand what is given when and then, because they will always say you do BDD, but they have no idea what is the conditions they have to give. So with this, you can see, the scenarios are created, your user story scenarios are created, and then you can use it and give it to developers to build the code and run it, run in the development, right? So what is the outcome achieved? Productivity is great. You are actually getting the right requirements in a standard format, and you know what you need to develop on. You don't need to go back to and fro and do a communication. Bugs, yeah, okay, you see user story, test scenario, so it's not too many, but it's okay. Fun, you're totally satisfied. You are really doing development work. You're not spending 60% of your time to clarify the requirements with your POs or your sponsors. You are just doing development work. So the satisfaction is the highest in this. Yeah, so improves efficiency, reduces time to create effective user stories, as well as the speech translation between the user and the test stories is quite simple. So we all talk the same language. All right, so I'm actually coming to an end, which is quite right on time. Okay, so my take overall, let me summarize. It's my personal view about all the experiments we were doing with the trending tools and the hardware available in the market. It does enhance your productivity. We have seen that in all the factors which I showed you in the various use cases, how the productivity is always on the 4 out of 5, it does enhance our productivity. We can make better codes. It does accelerate our development, no doubt about it. We can produce code much faster, much better. Yes, code reviews will be more as well, but it does help you to develop faster and to be able to deliver to the requirements. 100% improves the quality as well, because we saw how the satisfaction is there, and the prompts you can give to Gen AI to produce a right code, a secured code, a quality code. So it does help in that. We have seen that in the test cases which we have run on various tools which I showed. And it does have a transfer of knowledge. You have more collaboration with your sponsors and POs. You can talk the same language. you guys can exchange notes, and then your products are much better and up to the mark which you wanted exactly to run in the way the requirements came in. So about all the, that's about it from my side, but I have put the references for all the articles which I showed you, so don't worry if you did not take a screenshots. Everything is available there, all the great graphs by Mark Rosser or maybe other, NVIDIA developer blog. You can use those, all the references are there. And I think that's about it. I hope you guys learned something and can experiment more on Gen AI. Thank you.